monsoon session of the Parliament has finally begun, and it is expected to be a stormy ride with discussions on the India-China border issue, the pandemic, and the Delhi riots on the table. Also on the agenda are up to 45 bills waiting for approval from both the houses. So we began KYC or Know Your Constitution this week by telling you how a bill becomes an act. Now, essentially, a bill can be introduced in either the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha as per Article 107, but it has to be passed separately by both the houses. In every house, the bill is supposed to undergo 3 readings. Now, in the first reading, the bill is introduced, but the introduction of the bill itself may also be opposed by a few members and it may be put to a vote. So, bills can be rejected at this initial stage itself. For example, back in 2015, the Lok Sabha had rejected a bill to decriminalize homosexuality. This was introduced by Congress member Shashi Tharoor. In the second stage, the House can refer the bill to a parliamentary committee which looks into the bill and submits its report within 3 months. I had done a KYC previously on parliamentary committees and I'll put in a link for that in the description. Now, after receiving the committee's report, the House discusses the bill clause by clause and considers any amendments that the members might suggest and also the committee's report. Finally, in the third stage, the House then either accepts the bill or rejects it. This means that it needs to be accepted by a majority of the members present in voting. Now, once it's accepted, the bill is then sent to the other house where the same procedure is essentially followed again. But the first part, that is the introduction stage, doesn't happen again in the second house. Now, after both the houses of the parliament pass a bill, it is presented to the president for his assent. That just means approval. Article 111 talks about this. The president then has 3 options again. He can either give his assent. Secondly, he can withhold his approval as well. Or the third option is that he also can send the bill back to the houses with a message requesting them to reconsider it, and he can also suggest some amendments to the bill. The houses then have to reconsider the bill, but if they pass it again with or without amendments and send the bill back to the president, then he has to give his assent to the bill. Once this is done, a notification is issued and the bill is now an act. As for a money bill, the procedure is a bit different. In fact, the very definition of what a money bill is also a matter of controversy. There is a different procedure for a bill to amend the constitution as well. So I'll be taking up these issues one by one in upcoming KYC episodes and will explain these to you. On Wednesday, Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad told the Parliament that the government is committed to bringing a uniform civil code, but that it requires wider consultations. The statement was made while responding to a question put forth by a Lok Sabha MP. So my next KYC was on the Uniform Civil Code, what it means and what the Constitution says on it. Now, the Constitution mentions the UCC in Article 44. It says, and I quote, that the state shall endeavour to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. Article 44 is a part of the directive principles of state policy. As per Article 37, the state is duty bound to apply these directive principles in making laws, but you can't approach the court to enforce directive principles. So if the UCC was under the Fundamental Rights chapter, anybody could have approached the court asking for its enforcement, but since it is a part of the directive principles of state policy instead, this cannot be done and the Parliament hasn't brought in a UCC so far. The result is that the criminal laws in India are uniform and are applicable equally to everybody, no matter what their religious beliefs are. But the civil laws like those on marriage, adoption, divorce and succession depend on the religion of the parties. So Hindu personal law is largely codified in 4 acts. A large part of the Muslim personal law is still uncodified, but certain aspects are covered by laws such as Muslim Personal Law Shariat Application Act 1937 and the Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act. We have the Indian Christian Marriages Act and the Indian Divorce Act for Christians and the Parsi Marriage Act and Divorce Act for Zoroastrians. There are more universal laws too which disregard religion altogether. For example, there's the Special Marriage Act under which inter-religious marriages can take place. Now, the Supreme Court as far back as 1985 had said that a common civil code will help with national integration and that the state has a duty for providing for a uniform civil code for the citizens. But in 2018, the Law Commission submitted a report saying that a uniform civil code is neither necessary nor desirable at this stage in the country. It had also said that secularism cannot contradict the plurality that is prevalent in our country. But it acknowledged that there were discriminatory practices within different family laws in the country. So the Commission in fact said that the way forward could be to codify all personal laws. It also suggested some changes to marriage and divorce laws that may be uniformly applied across religions. For example, it wanted the marriageable age for both boys and girls to be 18 years. It also suggested that the ban on polygamy, that is marrying more than once, should be applied to all communities including Muslims. It had also said that this wasn't being suggested just because of the moral questions surrounding it, but because only a man is permitted multiple wives, which it said was unfair. But the Commission reserved its recommendation on polygamy specifically because a petition demanding a ban on polygamy is currently pending in the Supreme Court. Earlier this week, calling Hindi Divas a method to impose the language on non-Hindi speakers, former Karnataka Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy demanded its cancellation. So on KYC Next, we told you what the Constitution says about the official languages and the ones that it has recognized over the years. Actually, in India, no language has been conferred the status of a national language as such, but it does talk about an official language. Article 343 says that Hindi will be used for official work of the Union, that is the centre, along with English. But actually English was supposed to be used for official purposes only for a period of 15 years from the commencement of the Constitution. But the Constitution itself allowed the Parliament to make a law to permit the use of English beyond the initial 15-year period as well. However, before this 15-year period was to end, the 1960s saw agitations from the non-Hindi belt of the country, especially the one led by the DMK in Tamil Nadu. There were violent student agitations and self-immolations against the imposition of Hindi in the state, accusing the language of being a tool of the Aryans to infiltrate the Dravidian culture. In 1963, the Jawaharlal Nehru government then took action and passed the Official Languages Act, providing for continuation of English for official purposes. Additionally, the 8th schedule recognizes 22 languages. Now, initially the schedule only had 14 languages, but this number was gradually increased to 22 through 3 different constitutional amendments. In 2019, a bill was also introduced to amend Article 343 and to give all these 22 languages the status of official languages as well. But this bill is still pending. The Official Languages Act also says that both Hindi and English should be used for resolutions, orders, notifications and other reports that the central government makes. So on this point, the Supreme Court had earlier this month suggested that the Act should be amended to allow publication of official notifications in other languages too, that is languages other than Hindi and English. The suggestion was made when the court was considering a High Court direction for translating the draft EIA notification into the 22 languages in the 8th schedule. As for the states, they can adopt any language as the official language. So the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019 also allowed the Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir to adopt any language as the official language. But the Jammu and Kashmir Official Languages Bill 2020 has sparked controversy as it recognizes Kashmiri, Dogri and Hindi apart from Urdu and English as the official languages in Jammu and Kashmir. Several leaders including Farooq Abdullah have demanded inclusion of Punjabi, Gojri and Pahari in the official languages of Jammu and Kashmir. As for High Courts and the Supreme Court, Article 348 says that English is the language for these courts. But subclause 2 of Article 348 says that the governor of a state can allow the use of the local language in the High Court. So Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Bihar have taken this route to use Hindi in their High Court proceedings. The Supreme Court, on the other hand, out of its own initiative, has also begun translating its judgments into at least 6 other languages. Apart from this, Article 120 says that all business that happens in the Parliament should be in Hindi or English, but it does allow the Speaker or the Chairman of the House to allow any member to address the House in their mother tongue if they cannot express themselves properly in Hindi or English. This is Apoorva Mandhani for The Print. For more such videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.